thanks for joining us again for Shop Talk with Steve Brooks. Today we're going to be talking shop with John Love and Mr. Eddie Bennett. It's just a weekly YouTube video that goes on our channel every week so we can get new content out to everybody, something that they can watch, something that they can tune into, something that they can learn from. And we're always going to try to have leaders in our organization in this industry coming in and just sharing with you guys what really goes on behind the scenes. We come to boot camps, we go to trainings, we teach our systems, we teach you how to do the things that we do, but what kind of work and effort and even attitude and self-development goes in behind the scenes to make sure we go out and we perform well and we actually get out in our communities and serve people and help people. So today, guys, we're going to kind of dive into mentorship. And I appreciate you guys being here with me to talk about that. I think it's very important in my career and just as an adult, you know, having mentors in my life. And, you know, a lot of times when we go into organizations, I think you talked about it last time, Eddie, we fill out resumes and we go in and we kind of pretend like, here's a snapshot of the best stuff I've ever done in my life, hire me, and I'm going to come in and just rock this, thing. When in reality, we don't have a clue what we're doing. And nobody's really reaching out to us to show us how to do that. And that's true mentorship, I think, is someone that can actually reach out to you, meet you where you're at, and walk you through a program, a system that will, you know, get you to the level of maturity that you want to get to, whatever level that is. And we always talk about you can push down as hard as you want to on the gas pedal in this industry. And we just happen to be those who decided to push down on the pedal pretty hard, you know. And when I think about systems and programs, I think about kind of like the automobile industry, okay? So a lot of companies, I feel like, try to run people through a system like running them through an assembly line, and then an agent's just supposed to pop out on the other end. But in reality, I've found over the years that when you know, everybody that comes on board and works in this organization is uniquely different, and you've got to reach them where they are, see what their goals are, and help them with a business plan to get there, you know. And a good mentor, I feel like will do that. How do you guys feel about mentorship? Because you've been on both sides. John, I'll start with you. You've been on both sides of mentorship. You've been mentored. You do mentor. So, you know, I just know you're an expert in this field, man. So I really appreciate you coming and talking about this with us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, man.
I came into the insurance business about 20 years ago, and nobody mentored me.
Really?
I was thrown into the deep end of the pool, and it was a pool full of sharks.
But like me, though, man, that's just like the norm.
That's the way you learned it, right?
That's just the norm,
But
man.
nobody mentored me, and I had to struggle and survive and learn things the hard way by trial and error.
Yeah.
But eventually I started to recognize people who were doing it well,
Yeah.
and I might invite them to lunch and just ask questions and start picking their brain.
But you kind of had to go out and seek that mentorship.
Yeah, I had
right?
to go find it and
Wow.
almost pay for it. But I began to realize that true wisdom is not reinventing the wheel.
Right.
If I can sit with you and learn from you and accelerate my curve, so to speak,
Right.
that's wisdom.
Show me how to not make the mistakes that you made.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I mean?
how to move from where I am to where I want to be
Right.
faster and with less blood, sweat, and tears.
Then maybe that mentor did. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I talk about coaches growing up in sports. It wasn't until later on, you know, in my sport career, that I learned that a coach wasn't necessarily somebody that could do it better, you know what I mean, than I could. It was a totally different perspective than I had going through it. You know what I mean? And so for him to speak that truth in and to have a different perspective of what I was going through really helped me get to that next level, you know?
Yeah, Eddie and I were talking before the shot about some up and coming agents, and I said, do you realize that you and I take for granted years and years of experiences, and in a certain appointment, if something happens, if the person throws a screwball at me, I have a file cabinet in my brain that just opens up and a whole new batch of files come out.
Right.
And for me to sit with a new person and say, hey, I can teach you how to do most of this. I'll share most of this with you. If you'll make a commitment to me, I'll mentor you.
Yeah, that's strong. Eddie, what do you think, man? I know you got several folks you're working with, and that number just continues to grow and grow.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing a lot of different angles, man, a lot of different people. from a lot of different places, and young, old. I mean, it doesn't matter, man. But
well, I put it like this because I think you guys hit on a good point, which is a mentor should make the road ahead of you easier. I mean, I think that's the whole point in it. And you know, I know I've used this analogy because Steve, you were one of my main mentors in this industry. I'm the same way John was. I got into this career and there was a lot of training, but there was no one guiding me. Because at the end of it, they saw me as a way to produce more premium.
I know.
And when I got done being able to produce premium, they would just bring in a new guy who had another list of 200 friends and family. Now that's just kind of how the system works.
Right.
No one stuck because there was no coaching and mentor. Nobody really cared. So, I mean, you were a number one mentor for me in this, you know, walking through this thing. And I know we've kind of talked about this before, but the importance of following someone who's come before you, if you think of it in the analogy of walking through the jungle, you know, like you're in the, you know, that book Heart of Darkness, you know, they're in the middle of the Congo and they're trying to find, you know, just say these, you know, gold or precious minerals or something like that. The first person who went through with a bushwhacker. You know, he's got a machete and he's cutting. But let's just say he found it. More times he goes back and forth, he can create a more consistent path.
Right.
And where we're at today is, you know, a straight 4-lane highway.
Yep.
You know, we're at a point now where we know where to go, and so that mentor is just there to kind of direct you. But the system that we have in place has really made that way a lot more simple. The system is almost a mentor in itself. That if you follow it, it's been created by a bunch of people, you know, who've tested it out and made it better. And so it's so important to understand that a mentor can't push you down that road, right? If you don't want it, you're not going to get it, you know. But if you're willing to learn and you're willing to kind of maybe step out on a limb of, you know, maybe of humility, right? Hey, I don't know how to do this, but you do.
Right.
Can you teach me? Then that mentor can pull you. You know, and I think that's the most important aspect of being coached and mentored is that I can't push you to do anything. You can't push me to do anything. And we can't push each other to do anything that we don't want to do. But if we're willing to be taught and we're willing to learn, then I can have someone like you in my life who's going to pull me up.
Right.
And what I'm interested in is getting to that next level. And so I want to find some people to mentor me that are at that next level. You know, for me to mentor somebody, they're probably a few steps behind me. But for someone to mentor me, then they're ahead of me. And I need to first realize that Steve, you're a couple of steps ahead of me, but I want to get to where you're at. So I'm following your footsteps, you know.
Right.
And I think that's the essence of good mentorship is that the person who's being coached has to understand that they don't have all the answers.
Right.
Right? And it's so important to understand that that's okay. You know, it's okay to look to a John, to look to a Steve and say, man, I don't know how to do what you're doing. You know, can you teach me?
That's right.
And that goes for this business, but I also have someone that mentors me in a personal aspect of my life. I've got a gentleman that we meet with weekly, and he's a little bit older. His kids are in high school and college. My kids are in, you know, preteen and diapers.
Right. Okay.
You know, so he's seen some stuff that I hadn't seen, and I want to hear from him. You know, and so that's just a mentality that I think that if we can, and I think it's here in what we have going, you know,
100%.
especially with Brooks Financial, I really do feel like that we have the atmosphere for that to really grow.
You guys would be surprised at the comments that I get, the people that we run into at the big conferences and trainings that we go to, and they hear us speak or you know, just talk to everybody in our organization, and they just said the quality of people that you guys have in your organization is just, you know, hands down. I mean, just some of the best people I've ever met. So that's part of, you know, when you're choosing people to mentor, you know, choosing wisely those people that you want to mentor, people that you want to work with, people that do want to, you know, further their business and focus on growing people with the process. You know, we talk about not just growing agents, but growing people, you know what I mean? And actually caring about that person to where it's like, man, this is, you know, what this industry has allowed me to do. It's an amazing opportunity, and I can show you how to do that so that you don't have to go out and work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And I can show you a way that will create a different lifestyle for you that I didn't even know existed. You know what I mean? And it's real, and we can show you how to do that. So that would result in you spending more time with your family. You know what I mean? Spending more time, you know, mentoring others, spending more time spreading the gospel, whatever it is that you want to do with your extra time, mission trips, things like that. Like, everything about your life doesn't have to be work. You know, people getting up every single day and going and doing things that they don't like to do. So, you know, we teach the process to go with the purpose, and the process is the 8 steps, the income engine that we teach, and that we go over time and time again and teach people the 8 ways. Because whenever we did come on board, there was only, you know, one way, maybe, maybe 2, you know what I mean?
It was a good way.
It was a good way, you know, but over the years, we've seen all these different companies that have one way, and we're like, hold on, man, all these ways work. Everybody's just too stubborn, you know what I mean, to teach it all together and put it in a system that actually flows so that you can prepare and get ready for the next step and identify what your next step is. And our purpose is really to help people. You know what I mean? So we teach a process to go with the purpose, and that's just to help people. And I think if we're doing that from square one, we're teaching people how to go out and truly help people and be need identifiers and problem solvers, and they get to a point where they want to actually start mentoring. That's their personality. That's who they are. So if I'm sitting down with you and your family to show you some insurance coverage, and I truly want to help you guys out, nothing's going to change whenever I see someone who's looking for an opportunity like I was. I truly want to help them out. You know what I mean? So the person doesn't change. It's just kind of the mission that you're on. You know what I mean? So how about you, John? Like, mentorship in your life. Like I said, you've created something that's fantastic that you've already launched. You know, it's this whole other life coaching system that you have. But if you would be humble enough to just talk about how you've been mentored a little bit and how that's kind of helped you in life, but also in this business.
In the business?
Yeah, that'd be great.
The first real mentor that I had in the business, I'd been in the business for about 7 or 8 years, and I was...
Before you got a mentor in the business?
Before I got a mentor in the business.
Wow.
And this guy hired me to run final expense leads, and I was working like 4 states, so I would leave home on Monday.
Not 4 counties, Eddie. He was
for
working
like
4
3
states.
days. I'd go to Mississippi, Tennessee, wherever. And this guy mentored me. For the first month, we rode in the same car, stayed in the same motel room, and he showed me what to do. Then I did what he showed me. He corrected me. And by the time the month was over, I was making calls, setting appointments, running appointments, writing business. And then I graduated to running my own business and him on the phone for me. But we still stayed in the same motel. We still ate dinner together. He was still there to help me. So that's the first mentor I ever had.
But it took time. It took time, spending time with you. Y'all are all over creation, but it took that time investment with you. And a lot of people aren't willing to take that time investment because with all of our busy lives and everything we have to do, where am I going to fit in mentoring somebody? You know what I mean? So you have to make it a priority in your life to want to do that.
And I had to make a priority to him. I had to commit to him. And my biggest problem with mentoring people is they want me, but they don't want to commit to me. And I'll say, look, if you want it, it's a 2-way street. And if we enter into this relationship, you're going to have to commit to this. Because I'm giving time to you. You're going to have to make it a priority. And if I think you're not making it a priority, at some point we're going to cut it off.
And I think that's some of the more frustrating things when we talk about mentorship is we seem to think we have good quality conversations with certain people, and then like a week goes by and nothing happens, you know what I mean? And it can be discouraging as a mentor, but as you mature in mentoring people, you realize, you know, everyone that I talk to gets the same Steve, or they get the same John, or the same Eddie. I'm not treating them any differently. It's just that desire and how bad do they want it. That's what it is. It's them. It's not what you're giving them is not good enough or whatnot. But, you know, do you think it can be discouraging like that? I mean, have you ever been discouraged? You know?
It can be discouraging, and I've learned over the years to sort of frame it on the front end and say, this is what it looks like if I mentor you.
Okay.
And if you can't roll with
Yeah.
this, let's don't start.
Right.
Almost like a relationship with your wife. I mean, you frame that on the front end, and both of you agree these are the parameters of this relationship. And if you can't swing with that, don't do it.
Right.
But I'll
Makes
give you a
sense.
certain amount of my energy and my attention. But if you're not taking it seriously, I've got like 5,000 other things to do. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. So Eddie, same thing for you? I mean, you feel the same way as far as,
Yeah.
you know, your mentorship. How long in the business was it before you actually got a mentor? Do you remember? Like, you know, not just somebody that wanted you to go sell, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the good thing with mine is that me and you got linked up fairly soon.
Pretty early.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, you know, back when it was just us running leads, that aspect of self-development and mentorship wasn't really in our lives. And I think
No.
I can be transparent in doing that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, they see us now where we're reading books and we're self-developing and we're seeking out mentors, but there was a point where we weren't, because we didn't know that was important. We, you know, that didn't realize that was a necessary part of our success. So, you know, the ignorance of my early life and the industry, I just thought I had to know the product better and know a bunch of people. I mean, that was
Yeah.
really it. But that's about, you know, maybe half of, probably less than that. So when I started getting mentored was when, you know, probably you started getting mentored, right? It's probably about the same time. And then when I started being mentored, I started realizing that I could start mentoring others. So it's one of those things where in the beginning, you didn't even understand that it was something that you needed. You knew something was missing because it just seemed like there was a void there.
Right.
But it's so important that you seek out that, even, you know, even when, you know, like in that aspect, I thought that the guy who was training me was mentoring me, but he,
That was a trainer. Yeah.
no, man, he was just trying to get me to figure out like what whole life was, or
Right.
you know, what term was, and how to sell it.
Sell, rinse, and repeat.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not being mentored, you know. I think being mentored and having a coach is someone that's willing to diagnose where you're at, and then have a conversation about where you're at, and have realistic expectations of what the results should be from that. So if you're brand new, a week in the business, and last week you were an accountant, this week you're not going to know the ins and outs of how an IUL works.
Right.
It's not realistic.
That's right.
But to be able to have a conversation with somebody about living benefits should be something that you should be capable of doing. And that's
Sure.
why, you know, well, practice appointments, you know, I think credit needs to be taken to John.
Oh, yeah.
I think John kind of brought that to the light, which was, you know, hey, why don't we set up some times for people to practice this? So why is that the first step? Because you don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Not, you know, not in the, you know, not, you have some understanding of how it works, but you really don't have a clue of how to have a conversation with anybody. And so to just go out there and stick a lead in someone's hand, you know, it's probably not being the best practice, you
Well,
know.
it's not being very responsible on either end, you know, for
Yeah.
producing the leads, but also, is that the best situation to put that person in that sent that lead in that's expecting to get help?
Exactly.
Are we putting them in the best product? You know what I mean? Are we doing the best thing for them? If that's the first time you've ever had this conversation with somebody,
Yep.
probably not.
One of the first things my mentor told me, don't spend all your money. Set up a separate bank account,
Yeah.
run all your business expenses through a separate bank account. Do not spend all your money. And it was the first time I had ever made any real money.
Yeah.
So you could go out and make $5,000 in a week. And some of the guys would come back on Monday and be broke. And my mentor said, don't spend all your money. And I didn't spend all my money.
Yeah.
He said, set up a separate bank account. And I set up a separate bank account. Track all your expenses. Just things like that.
Yeah.
When people come into this business and money starts flowing in the tens of thousands and they've never had money, that's where your mentor comes along and
Yeah.
says, hey, let me show you something.
That's right,
That's
yeah.
called budget. And don't spend more than this no matter how much you make.
Right.
Because next month there might be a problem. You might not
Yeah.
have as many policies issuing next month.
That's right.
So that was mentor stuff. That's high level stuff.
That is.
And trainers, like you said, trainers teach you how to fill out apps and present products.
Is it?
But mentors are on a bigger picture.
Let's make sure this thing doesn't derail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's make you have make sure you have a good foundational, something to build off of. What it did for me too, like when I think back earlier on, I didn't really have a mentor for a really long time, to be honest with you. But what I did have was I'm very fortunate. My wife and I were in the business together.
Yeah.
So I had somebody to lean on. You know what I mean?
That's good.
To me, having somebody to lean on helped me a lot. And I started figuring that out as, our organization grew. And, I didn't really identify it as mentorship. I just knew people needed other people to lean on.
Yeah.
And I was like, that makes sense. Because looking back, there were times when I would come out of appointments super frustrated. You know what I mean? I might have gone on a string. My longest string was 2 weeks without a sale. And I'd been in this business, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I was beating the steering wheel, John. I didn't know what in the world was going on. You know what I mean? And I'd call her and fussing, and she'd just be like, babe, don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. You haven't changed anything, so don't change anything now. It's just the people you're sitting in front of. And so I kept going and doing the same thing, and it was the next Monday or Tuesday, did the same exact thing I did for the last 2 weeks, and ended up selling a policy. But if I would have quit, I never would have had the opportunity to continue moving on. But those conversations with her in a moment of frustration or, what should I do? Is it me? No, it's not you.
Yeah.
And just for an example, there was a young agent in here this morning. He and I were talking, and he actually went out and wrote a policy this morning.
Yeah.
And got an ERS, was stopping by here, then going to run his ERS appointment. But he was like, man, it's crazy. Just a lot of things are starting to come together. I said, yeah. I said, we've been talking over the last couple of weeks, and you've been like, man, just frustrated, and I'm just, not concerned, but man, I'm ready for some things to start happening. And I said, so now some things are happening. I said, you thought I was crazy when I was telling you just hang in there, keep doing the activity. You got to do the activity for things to happen. You know what I mean? You've only been doing this a couple of months, and you're still going to college full time. You're going to college full time, and you're trying to pick this up part time. You know what I mean? So you got to give it some time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So coaches and mentors will also teach you patience.
Yeah.
To me, that was one of the most difficult things that I had to learn was patience.
I think one of the most difficult things that a lot of people encounter when they come into this business is going into a situation where nobody's really supervising you. And learning how to be self-supervised. And if you've worked 40 hours all your life and you've had to punch in, punch out, and suddenly there's nobody watching you, and you can sleep till 10 if you want to. You can sit around in your shorts all day eating cereal, doing nothing if you want to. But I think mentorship comes in the insurance business to say, if you don't discipline yourself and force yourself to do certain things every day consistently, you're not going to be here very long. It's going to be a very frustrating journey for you. But if you can make yourself do this, to me, those are the higher level conversations that have to be encountered with people to say, if you want to stick around and do this, this is where your mentor comes in.
I think it's the high level you hit on was discipline. Discipline's so important. It's important to me, the disciplines that I do, and people think about discipline as a negative thing. Disciplines are the things that propel us towards success. It's not like I have to do this or somebody's making me do this, but something else that a good mentor will do and have done for me is if we do discuss some things and we discuss some disciplines that would potentially benefit my time and my day and being productive, is the accountability part of it. You know what I mean? Being held accountable for certain things and knowing that, all right, we talked about this and we're going to end up discussing it towards the end of the week again. Well, also, I just think the accountability is a higher level type mentorship that I think we need, So one more thing, and then we'll close out for this session. But juggling the different levels of mentorship, because if you have multiple people that are coming into your organization, how do you do that, man? Do you keep track of that, like just mentally, you guys, or do y'all keep notebooks? I mean, because we're talking to people who are coming into our organization, and we want to get the point across that you need to really latch on to a mentor. We talk about having coaches and mentors, and also have conversations with people about, well, what's different about your organization? Well, it truly is the people, and it truly is the mentorship program that we have in place. I was reading in a book, and it was talking about, if there was one thing inside of an organization, that if you could just crack that nut, that would just, if you could crack that nut and figure it out, your business would just explode. What would it be? And it said that if people could actually come into an organization and have a true mentor in that organization, that would be something that would, propel their business if they could have a true mentor. And this wasn't even anything to do with insurance, but it was just, that's something that I think is desired. So coming in an organization and having a true mentor that's going to look at your situation and try to help better your situation, I think separates us from a lot of other companies that are out there. But the reason I want to address this is coming into the organization, know that mentors are here, they're available to you, but also there are people watching this that are growing. They're getting into the mentorship role. So how do you manage that? You know what I mean? How do you incorporate that into your lifestyle and teach others the things that you've taught? Because a lot of people in our organization have a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom, but making sure that they're being a good mentor. And the main thing I want to touch on, I guess, is not getting frustrated. Some people get frustrated, you know what I mean, because they don't really see, results or people taking it seriously. Or, I don't know, but how do you manage that, John? I mean, you put your system out on the internet, you know what I mean? You're talking to multiple people,
Yeah. I learned, first of all, that charging people for things generally changes the conversation pretty fast.
Yeah.
And when you pay me for something, you'll show up.
True.
And I've wrestled with the free model for years and had people not showing up. I started charging by the head.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot of money, but when you pay $10 for something, your whole mindset changes.
It's just the psychological part of it.
But I block off certain times and I put content out, and I expect you to work through the amount of content that I've laid out for you. Mm-hmm. And then I do group sessions. Mm-hmm. I use technology. So a Zoom meeting with 10 or 12 people, no big deal for getting out content, but then I'll do one-to-ones around that where we can do some real mentoring. And it's just on the calendar. So it's calendared in as part of my day. I think that people have to feel how important it is to mentor. Mm-hmm. I'm probably preaching 2 funerals this week, and one of them is a little old lady, little old grandma from back in the woods, basically in South Georgia, and I guarantee you it'll be standing room only because this woman mentored people. Her kids, her grandkids, her great-grandkids, everybody in the community would come to her, and she would just share life with them. And her wisdom was just leaking out of reports. I guarantee you, you won't be able to get a space in that building because she understood how important it was.
Yeah. And
at the end of life, how much money you make, you're leaving it all.
Right.
Yeah. Your house, your car, your stuff. I think the real thing that people will take with them, and my mother said this pretty much on her deathbed, it was the people that I helped along the way. Yeah. When you start to take stock of what was really important, there's a line of people that I really poured into whose lives are different because they interacted with me. When you take hold of that, mentoring becomes a totally different conversation.
That's strong, man. I appreciate you sharing that. One more thing before we bounce to Eddie. I didn't really tell anybody about your background, but full-time pastor.
Yeah.
Full-time pastor. That I would assume takes quite a bit of time during the week to prepare, and with funerals and wedding. I mean, you got a lot going on, I would imagine.
Full-time preaching schedule.
And you got to preach every Sunday.
That's every Sunday.
Yeah.
Now, I don't charge church members for mentoring. No. But the thing I've noticed is when I do that for free, they don't show up.
Interesting.
And when somebody comes to me from the outside and I say, I'm going to charge you $500 for this, and they pay me $500, they show up. And they walk away and say, that was the greatest thing I've ever done. So that's the biggest change to my model right now is I'm charging people by the head.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the results they're getting are just night and day different.
So let me ask you this, just as it pertains to our viewers that are watching and our organization and coming into our system and what we're doing. What attracted you? Because there may be some other pastors or people in ministry. I know we talked to a gentleman last week that is going to be a pastor. He's a young man, and he said this just sounds really amazing that I could actually make a certain income, but still have the time to do what I want to do? What kind of attracted you to do this, and what words of encouragement we tell people that wanted to do this part-time,
I was running a full service agency at the time, Home, Auto, Life, Financials, and they were just running me in the ground and working 80 hours a week. My receptionist made more money than me. I was paying all the bills.
But it didn't look
and
like that.
It didn't look like that. But I met Steve, I met Lisa around town. I knew y'all were a certain quality of people. My secretary was really making more money than me. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah, what a
And
facade,
I was
right?
paying taxes on all this money, but we talked, and I knew that you guys had something here that was special. And what attracted me was the ability to work from my home if I wanted to work the hours I wanted. I could really stack up 1 or 2 days a week and really run insurance like crazy,
Yeah.
and then do other things the other 5 days of the week. And I'm disciplined enough to do that. So I could run like a Tuesday, Thursday, just suicide number of appointments and make 6 figures.
And you made 6 figures for as long as you worked with it.
Consistently, yeah. And that's my goal, is to make a certain amount of money, and it balances my budget and makes everything happen at my house.
Yeah.
But the discipline to do that is something that I think is earned. You could jump into this thing and you could work 2 days a week and make 6 figures.
No.
And that's what we have to talk about when we talk about the 8 ways that, it takes time. You know what I mean? You gotta walk through this process, and you can't just jump in and be John Love and make 6 figures in
Yeah.
3 months. You know
And I
what mean?
swam in the Shark Tank, like I said. I was
Yeah.
thrown in with
Yeah.
the sharks.
Yeah.
When you've done that, I know you have, Eddie's done that. I understand certain things intuitively that I have to teach or mentor. You don't walk in off the street with that sort of
No.
knowledge.
So you got the bumps and bruises, you put in the time, and the people who you're gonna continue to listen to on this channel and see at our trainings are people, who just didn't quit. That's the reason why we're still here.
That's it.
We just didn't quit,
Yeah.
All the bumps and bruises that you're going through. I remember there was this one guy, a long time ago, I was coaching him, and he was, man, this happened. I'm like, man, I understand. I know how I've been a few weeks. Man, this happened. Oh man, I understand. I understand how that feels. You just think you know how everything works. I'm like, man, I'm just telling you, man, I've been there. I
Been there.
understand it.
Yeah.
And then that I have an answer for everything, but I can relate to walking out of my home without an application, or I can relate to being stood up, or, I can relate to a flat tire on the way to an appointment.
Yeah.
That messes up my whole day. You know what I mean? So it's just the mental toughness. And when I started getting mentored on, actually, reading and working out those muscles in my body, it just really helped me overcome a lot of things that aren't really a big deal anymore. It's just things that life throws at you, and you just kind of deal with them. But as far as what John was talking about,
Well, John was talking about, like charging people. Of course, we don't do that.
No.
This is a different type of model. You're talking about life coaching.
Yeah.
But you do have to be bought in. And, so the principle is still true. You find somebody who's half-heartedly in, and we say it all the time. John is part-time, but he's not spare time.
yeah,
That's a big deal. And you can be part-time, and that could be 1 day a week, or that could be 3 days a week, or you could be doing this on the side with your other, main source of, your occupation or whatever that you're doing. But it's not spare time, and the point of that is that it's not getting around to it when you want to, but you have to be bought into it, and so you have to commit to working the system wherever you're at. And so you may be on practice appointments running, ERSs, or you may be getting B leads and getting A leads, or you may be out talking to business owners, or wherever you're at in the process, you've got to be bought in. And I think that is so true. And I see people who are unwilling to be coached, and the ideal team player is hungry, humble, and smart. And hungry, if you're not hungry, this is certainly not for you. You got to want to go out and talk to people and see people. But to be humble is a huge part of it, and we've already talked about that. If you're not willing to say, hey, I need help, then you're not going to be the best version of yourself. But being people smart, not necessarily smart, but just being able to have conversations with people and be smart. But those are the 3 main categories. So when we talk about being bought in, the number one thing of being hungry is wanting to get more information, right? Like I want you to teach me more. You know, I want to have someone pour into me, because at this stage in my life, I understand that mentorship and self-development and coaching is the only way to get to the next level. It really is. There's not, I mean, there's not an original thought. Well, there was one. You know, there was one guy, there was one guy who's pretty smart, and he had all the original thoughts. But I'm not going to come up with something better at this point.
Right.
You know, there's somebody who's done it, and so I can learn from some people's experiences and things. And so, especially when you have somebody in your life that you trust, and so I can learn from them. But the other thing is that I just have to be humble. You know, I got to be hungry for the knowledge, but I have to be humble too. So, you know, when someone tells me, like one of the most important things that I've learned in the recent time period is I don't have to be right. You know, I don't have to be right. And I'm a type 8
It's tough for you to.
Enneagram. So if you've done the Enneagram, I'm a type 8, and that means that I am right. You know, it's just I am. So, but
Awesome.
but when I'm teaching and coaching people, and they do something that's different than, you know, they're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean that I have to, you know, I don't have to you're not doing it wrong. It's just that the fact of the matter is that I don't have to prove to them that they're doing it wrong, or prove to them that I'm doing it right. But it's more about where they're at, and then, hey, when they're coachable, like when they're ready to learn, then I can teach them and you know, pour into them. But you know, and that was from being coached. You know, that was from coming from a guy who's at a high level and saying, hey man, believe me, I'm just like you, you know, but you don't have to be right, you know, and you don't have to make sure that they understand that they're doing it wrong. That's a huge part of this whole thing.
You don't have to be right to be successful.
You don't. You're not, you know, to go around and prove to people how right you are, you're probably not going to be successful.
That's right.
You know, even though you are right, in essence.
And the word wrong jumps off the page at me. I might not have to prove you're wrong. You can do it that way if you want to. But here are my results.
That's it.
And there are your results. And
right.
when somebody is producing consistently
Yeah.
a certain result, I'm going to do it exactly the way he does it.
That's
right.
it.
And I'll tell you one thing that I have changed in my in-home presentation because of you
Yeah.
is the little laminated chart. I never
Yeah.
did that before, but he gets results. And results don't lie. So Eddie said he does it this way. I changed my thing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
The results just weren't the results I wanted. So that's
Something that
where
simple.
coaching comes in, or mentorship.
Yeah.
If you're bringing in those kind of numbers consistently, I'll call this guy and just ask him questions, and he'll share. And that's the thing about this organization. I've been in other insurance organizations that were very secretive, and if some guy was doing really well, he wasn't telling you anything. But these people will take you off to lunch or whatever and say, yeah, I'll tell you exactly how I do it, and there are no secrets.
Yeah.
So I was around for a long time before I found this group. This is the best group I've ever been in. I still talk to people regularly who are in the business. I ask them who they're with, who's your IMO, and they'll talk about their upline. My upline does this, my upline does that.
That language, yeah.
They're not training you right, and they're not mentoring you.
No.
They're just shoving you out the door and trying
Yeah.
to get you to sell. So
Yeah.
it's hard to jump in on you like that.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, it's such an important part of what we do, which is it is an open communication.
Yep.
You know, we're not holding on to what we do, and in essence, I mean, that's these other people. It's like they're keeping people from being successful because they're afraid that they'll leapfrog them. You know, but a rising tide lifts all ships. There's nothing that I can share with John that's going to hurt me. Because here's the thing, is that you know how many agents of mine have been directly impacted from John. I know we're probably going to talk about it later about bringing the pain. You know, this is Dr. Pain. You know what I mean? I mean, this is Dr. Love. But, you know, he's the doctor bringing
I'll hurt
pain.
you though, brother.
And think about it, like, we wouldn't have grown, we would have been, you know, because what is true is that no man is an island.
That's right.
You know, and so if we would have kept to ourselves and not grown, not been open with information, not, you know, had called people when we thought we had some, had some questions and things, and not been willing to share that, then we wouldn't be where we are today.
That's right.
And so it's just a huge part of what we do, which is we're unashamedly, okay with telling you what we're doing here.
That's
And because we want you to be successful.
That's it.
It's not about overrides, and it's not about making more money. It's about seeing someone who doesn't have financial freedom and putting working this income engine, and then seeing results, and then having financial freedom, and then seeing them impact people's lives. And then having an agent come to you and then say, I just had my first death claim, or I just had my first living benefit claim, and then being able to see them deliver that check. That's huge.
Or
That's what we're about.
How about we just bought a new house, or we just bought a new car? Like, I never thought I'd be able to do this. I just went on vacation with my family, and I haven't done that in 15 years. Like, you can't buy those types of feelings when somebody comes up to you and tells you those types of things, man.
I had an agent tell me this, and we probably close, but it was his first sale. All right, he made one sale, and we were talking last week, and he said, Eddie, we have more money in the bank now than we ever have as a married couple.
One sale.
One sale, and we're just these grizzled agents that we're like 5, 6, 7, 8 policies a week is how you do it. And you think about you know what I mean, and you think about one sale, and it's like that person now has freedom that they never had. And we have the ability to give that to people.
That's right.
That's huge.
Big deal.
Yeah.
I remember my
Fires
first
me
month in
up.
the insurance business. I made almost as much money in the first month as I had made the previous year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's something to this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you guys being on. I guess, people can just take away from this session. Sometimes I get, I hate to bug you. You're never bugging somebody in this organization. It doesn't matter if they're your mentor, your coach, if they're just someone you've met at a boot camp or a workshop. Reach out to them. Always pick up the phone and reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
You're never, ever bugging anybody. The other thing that I would say is, John, you really know how to work 10, 15, 20 hours a week. Don't just do this spare time or sometimes. Make sure that you make a decision to work and do this at designated times that you choose to do it, and actually put that time and effort into it. So hope you picked a lot up today. We look forward to tuning in next time, and have a great night.